Hey, Carla, thanks so much for joining me on the show today.
Hey Ben, thanks so much. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, awesome. And it's a bit of a different interview we've got going on today, but I guess regardless, I'd still love to start off with the first question we always ask is tell us about your family.
All right, so I have a pretty small family. There's my sister and I, so we're obviously the kids, mum and dad. We immigrated from South Africa to Australia, just the four of us. So there's only the four of us here in Australia on the Gold Coast, and we're very, very tight knit. Rest of the family is literally plonked all around the world. So
Mm.
yeah, coming from South Africa, everyone try to get out as quick as possible and sort of went to any country that would take them. So yeah, we ended up
Wow.
here in Australia about 13 years, and yeah, it's just the four of us.
Yeah, wow. And with things closed for the last little bit, yeah, I'm guessing you haven't seen them much.
Yeah, we actually had a full family reunion sort of scheduled for 2020, and
Ah,
we were 3 weeks out of getting on the plane, going over to the States, everyone flying in, and then yeah, obviously borders shut, so that put a bit of a spanner in the works.
yeah, bugger. There you go. You're going to plan one for the next sort of 12 months or so?
Already talking, the borders are
Awesome.
open now, so yeah, we'll
Yeah.
find something.
Nah, fantastic. That's good to hear. And with your family, what do you like doing together to sort of maintain and sort of spend time outside of work?
Yeah, good question. We moved to Australia and we thought that was bloody lottery.
Mm.
What an awesome country, and particularly living on the coast. So we're very much about going to the beach or going to any of the parks around the place. I have a dog. My parents have a dog, so wherever pets are allowed, we're there with a picnic. So yeah, we generally try to get out, enjoy the outdoors. But we do have sort of a routine or a tradition of doing like a dinner every fortnight at one of our houses. So that's kind of I guess, the thing that we do to make sure that we're all connected. And no matter how busy our lives are, we still come together to have that meal every couple of weeks.
Yeah, fantastic. There you go. And with your partner Tyler, how work would still be extremely busy for you, and I'm guessing he's got plenty on. What do you do to sort of keep building your relationship and spending time together?
Uh, well, it's been a journey,
Mm.
learning for sure. What we've settled on, or sort of our rhythms at the moment, when we get home, phones and laptops go away.
Yep.
So I had a really bad habit at the sort of the start of my career of sort of taking work home and,
Mm.
get off your computer at work, you drive home, you open your laptop at home and you spend another few hours working there, and you never actually have a conversation with the people that you live with. So that's probably the biggest thing, is that when we're together at home after hours, it's that quality time. And
Mm.
just being really strict and disciplined around, trying to turn off. Obviously, there's fires that happen and there's,
Yeah.
stuff that needs to be dealt with, but that should always be the exception rather than the rule or the default. So, yeah,
Mm.
that's mainly the one thing that we're really conscious about. And then the other thing is we've got a very solid Sunday reset routine. So,
Awesome.
we get up nice and early, go to the markets, sort of do our weekly shopping. That's a good excuse for us to talk and, plan the week and,
Mm.
I guess, reset for the week coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Well, that sounds pretty handy, and yeah, I find it super tough even now, even with the kids. It's trying to sort of disconnect from your phone, especially when sometimes I go sort of back to back right up until I get home, and that's just this instant fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
In terms of you're expecting your brain to turn off like straight away, but often I feel like it doesn't.
Yeah. And a lot of his clients, so he works in sort of like video editing, digital marketing, and majority of his client base is from the States. So for him, it's even more tricky because everyone wants to do calls at night or, sort of do a lot of that communication. So yeah, hats off to him. He's been really strict on it. So it kind of pushes me to make sure that I adhere to that as well.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Well, in terms of the questions I've got for you, one of the ones I want to sort of start with on the career front is walk us through what your career looked like up until joining 5x5.
So straight out of high school, I joined a company called Harrop Business Solutions, and they're essentially a business coaching company, so a family friend. I started sort of just getting teas and coffees, doing, general sort of admin work, organizing workshops, events, that sort of stuff. And what I noticed, and why I sort of mentioned it as being kind of like a pinnacle moment, is what I noticed is it was the same information, but it was applicable to pretty much every business that he coached in terms of his trainings and the foundations and all of that. And I thought that was crazy interesting that, you can be a lawyer or you can be a hairdresser or whatever, but the teachings were exactly the same regardless of the industry or the size of the business, if that makes sense. So,
and what was the gist of them?
Well, it just was basically the foundation. So, people go into business for the team time money. Either you want, more money, evidently, more time to spend with your family or doing the things that you love. And then team was the other one that was sort of the challenges that came up a lot. How do I get people to do what they need to do or what they hired them for, or how do I get the team so that I can step away from my business? So, the challenges that they all had, as in the businesses, why they were seeking coaching was one of those three challenges. And like I said, regardless of the industry, the size, it somehow fit into one of those sort of three pain points. So yeah, that's kind of where I started, learned a lot in that role. And then, just sort of, it wasn't a what I knew, it was more of a who I knew situation getting into the next role. So obviously being in the business coaching space, got introductions to other business coaches, and that's how I landed my next role with an author called Andrew Griffiths. I think you know of him from KPI days.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I got a gig with him, sort of helping him with his sort of like digital products and his website and a little bit more of his marketing and organizing events and all of that fun stuff. Again, learned a bunch. And then from that role, I moved to the Gold Coast, and that's when I got the introduction from Andrew to Jerome. So yeah, it kind of organically happened through people that I knew / what was going on personally, as in moving cities, and kind of just jumping to the next challenge. I had no real experience in digital marketing besides the limited stuff that I did with Andrew, but I was just kind of looking for a new challenge or a new role to sink my teeth into, and it just so happened that 5x5 had something going. So
yeah, wow, there you go. That's that seems like fate, hey, and including even what you did at the business coaching group for what you're doing now in 5x5. It sounds quite synergetic, is that even a word? Anyway. Yeah. In terms of the business itself now, and I think there'd be a lot of listeners who go, wow, that's like pretty big, John and Carla got tons going on. We interviewed John a few weeks ago, and he said that the team's nearing 40 people now. So that's like a fair few mouths to feed and heads to manage, so to speak. But the business wouldn't have been that when you joined. So what I want to sort of walk the listeners through is a bit of a journey of when you started, what were you sort of helping out and doing at that point, and then sort of merging our way through your journey to now being CEO of this quite a sort of medium-sized business. I wouldn't call it a small. And how that worked, because I just don't want people to see the result and go, nah, too hard or ages away. So that's kind of my perspective I'd love to dig into. So yeah, paint the sort of picture of what did 5x5 look like when you joined?
So when I joined, there was just myself and John and our furry mascot called Dustin in the office.
Wow, two.
Yeah, two of us in the Gold Coast HQ office, if you want to call it that. It was just literally like a 2-bedroom sort of cottage house that John had converted to an office. So yeah, it was just John and I and Dustin. And the rest of our team was sort of all over the shop. So there was Sam, who's our now chief of creative. He was living in Japan because his wife is Japanese, and they were spending some time there with her family. And yeah, we just had the rest of the team kind of scattered. And looking back on it, it's crazy because that, I guess, is what planted the seed, I guess, for where we've ended up now, and the fact that I was hired as a project manager. So basically what that means is John will sell you a website, and then he will hand you over to Carla. Carla will then facilitate building the site, so handling the project, sort of being your point of contact through the process, so you don't have to communicate directly with a designer or developer. You sort of only have to deal with me. So that was my role. But what happens when you're sort of sitting side by side with John, 8 hours a day, is you start to learn a little bit more about, what he does from a marketing perspective, or, what he's doing from a sales perspective, or how he communicates with clients, or, what he kind of does day to day. And it sort of organically happened that whilst I was doing my role, I was obviously observing and learning what John did, and would slowly kind of pluck one or two of those responsibilities that he was doing, that was then sitting on my plate. And it got to the point where it was like, all right, well, I can't take on any more personally. Who else do we need on the team that can take some of the stuff off my plate? And that's really, I guess, how we've eventuated to where we are now. It's just that constant sort of next higher evaluation of, what's the low level activity that's on Carla's plate, that she can palm off, so that I can take more of what's on John's plate, right? And so we went from it being just John and I in the office and a team, I think we were only sort of 12 at that point, to a team of nearly 40 with 14 in the Gold Coast office. So yeah, I learned obviously not just the role I was hired for, but learned pretty much everything to do with the business in such a short period of time. And that's really, I guess, where we were able to make such big leaps and bounds in terms of me progressing my career, but then also being able to add team to the mix as well.
No, very cool. And in terms of your, would you be able to sort of run us through what you look after on a day-to-day basis now?
Yeah, so it's always evolving, because like I said, we have a very I guess routine rhythm of assessing what is on our plate day to day, and then sort of figuring out, are we working in our genius zone, as in are we doing all the activity that is the best use of our time. So at the moment, what that looks like is, I'll take you sort of on a weekly schedule, because it's very planned. I'm a very structured person, so I like to make sure that every minute's sort of planned for. On a Monday, we have compulsory in-office team meetings. So basically Monday is our rhythm to set up the week. So I'll do full team meeting, and then we will break out into what we call our department huddles. So I'll sort of facilitate stand-up meetings with each of our key people and each of our key departments. And that conversation is really about what's on the go for this week? What do we need to close out from last week? What's your priority? What support do you need? Is there anything that the team or I need to be aware of? Anything blocking your flow? So it's just basically like a setup for the week ahead.
Yep.
Tuesdays are what we call our get shit done. Are you allowed to say that S word on your podcast?
That's all good.
Yep. Perfect. Get stuff done day.
Yep.
Everyone's just in project work or big rock work or, whatever the allocated priorities are. Wednesday morning, the full team will do sort of like a quick sort of huddle per department check-in. So more like a temperature check. How are you going with those priorities? How are you going with your to-do list? Has anything happened that we need to be aware of the last few days? So sort of just check in where everyone's at, how things are going. Thursday, again, is another get stuff done day. And then Friday is a mix between finish out stuff for the week, prioritize and plan for the week ahead. And then we also sort of flag it as our admin day. So we don't do any site launches or any kind of critical items on a Friday because Saturday, Sunday, no one wants to get a call from a client. My site's gone down. So we just basically flag Friday as being sort of your admin day to do all of your housekeeping sort of things and closing out the week and setting up for the week ahead.
Yeah, wow. So all the team, including yourself, has this sort of ideal week mapped out for them.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, everyone is very in tune with the same rhythm. We just find that it helps kind of everyone moving to the same rhythm. Everyone knows when check-ins are coming, when they can get support, when they can have access to certain people. And then to answer your question, sort of in between those catch-ups and those check-ins, it's really about supporting the team to be able to do what they need to do, as well as obviously doing what we call big rock tasks, which is on the business work rather than sort of working directly with clients per se.
No, fairly cool. And the other, I think, big aspect and one of the reasons why I was so keen to interview you was how you interact with John as the founder of 5x5, because we heard a few weeks ago that his sort of business work-life balance is actually pretty what's the word? It's I would say it's great. The hours that he can sort of work, do the kids' school runs and things like that. That's awesome. And so how did you assist in the process of helping him step back a little bit on the operational side of things?
Yeah, so it depends who you ask. We'll give you a different sort of story. The short version is our heads of departments pretty much sat down in a room with John and said, John, this is your new calendar going forward, as in these are the days you're allowed in the office. This is what you'll be working on. It's a bit harsh, and obviously no one, being the business owner, that can be a bit of an awkward conversation. But really, I guess the baby steps going up to that was just allowing John to, I guess, step out of the day-to-day, and how he could do that was showing him that we've got it, that he doesn't have to jump in and fight fires and sort of solve our problems, that he's trained us and coached us well enough to be able to look after 80% of that stuff. And so, that's been like an 18-month evolution to him only really coming into the office, a few hours a week. So in terms of like rhythm with John, how that looks now is John will be the first one in the office, usually on a Monday. I will join him 20 minutes later and we'll sort of sit together for an hour going through various things from, financials, team happiness, client statuses, project statuses, just sort of letting him know anything that he needs to or that we need his assistance on. And then he'll obviously sit in for a couple of the team huddles, and then he'll leave. And usually he's not in the office on a Tuesday. He'll join us for a huddle or temperature check on a Wednesday, and then he's out on a Thursday, and he's out on a Friday. So not to say that he's not working, it's just the things that he's working on are the things that we as a team need him to be working on. As in, it's all of that higher level genius stuff that John is amazing at and that we can't necessarily do yet. We just need to keep him in that zone and keep him in that flow, because that's when we are most supported or we get the best out of him, right? So it's been a journey to get to that point. But John's happier, the team's happier, the clients are happier. So all in all, it's been a good progression.
There you go. And it all started by sort of firing him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. I also heard, we don't need to repeat it, but I also heard the cheeky Big Rock name for booting him out.
We had to get the point across. So
yeah, that's so funny. Very good. And so, one of my next questions is, like a lot of business owners sort of aspire to that balance and getting their key team members to take over responsibility from them. What are your recommendations to people, similar to John's shoes before you stepped in a huge way, of like what works really good and what doesn't work really good? So what are the do's and don'ts?
Yeah, so I can only really talk, I guess, from my experience in the two I see, right? Like I'm not 100% sure, how John would answer it, but I guess what I've learned is building that trust first and foremost. So obviously John and I, we were super, super close when I first started just working side by side, the last 4 or 5 years, but so it's sort of building that trust and not being afraid, I guess, to take the initiative to start looking after things, because from my experience, John won't, let go or necessarily ask you to do something, but I find I get the best result when I go to John and I say, hey, John, I noticed that you look after this. I'm actually really interested in how to do that. Do you mind spending some time with me, teaching me how to do it? And then I can do that from now on, right? And so that's really what I did in order to start taking over more and more responsibility, is sort of understand what John does day to day, look for the responsibilities or the things that are on his plate that I think I can manage or someone else in the team can manage, and slowly sort of, prying those away from John. And then at the same time, communicating where we might need John's expertise on. So to give you an example of that, marketing, like I'm not going to say I'm great at marketing, but John is great at marketing and he's just got a knack for it. So it's almost like that, saying, I'll do this if you can do that type of situation. And it's just been a repetitive process of sort of taking stuff off of his plate, showing that the team have got it, we can do it, keep him updated enough that he knows that it's been looked after, but not communicate too much that he feels like he needs to jump in and, fight the fire for us. So yeah, that's really been my process, is highlight what John does, see where the low level things are, take those off of his plate, and at the same time kind of replace it with projects that will get the best out of John in. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of the mindset that we've been in.
Yeah, great. And I think that that brings up something for me where I also think it's the right team member. It's not all about the business owner, but it sounds like you've got a fair amount of initiative and foresight to actually see that in advance and do something about it. So that might actually be one of the things I'm picking up, is it actually matters who who your 2IC is, or your person you intend to help with this stuff.
Yeah, and that's where the trust comes in, because John will know if, if a client calls on a Saturday at 10 a.m. I'm going to be on the phone to that client on a Saturday at 10 a.m., even though that's not a work day, or, that's not in my contract or whatever. Like I've got the love and the, the protection of our company just as much as John does. Well, maybe he has a little bit more, but, I will do anything and everything for 5x5. And that gives him the trust that he can go away for a day or two and know that, someone's going to be there to help fight the fires or have the best interest of the business at heart.
Yeah, fantastic. And is there any points where you struggled along the way, like whether it was sort of grabbing things out of John's grip, or what were sort of the tough bits?
So funny metaphor, but I have this rule: when I go shopping and I buy a new item of clothing, when I come home, I have to part with another item of clothing, right? And so I've learned that I have to do the same thing in the business for me personally. When I take something on from John, I need to be conscious and mindful that I'm not going to be able to hold it all and carry it all and do all of it the way that I need to. So just as important as, having someone, as in me, taking something from John, me being able to upskill or train someone else in our team to maybe take a couple other things off of my plate. So yeah, that's sort of been the main thing. Yeah. That would be it. What was the question again? So
more of the sort of challenges of that journey, that growth for you.
Yeah, so definitely that, knowing that you can't look after everything and do everything. The other thing is, as we're a growing business, like we've grown double digits year on year for the past 3 or 4 years. And as sort of John evolves and changes and I evolve and change, it has got a bit muddy or a bit muddled on, well, what is your role in the business and what do you look after, and what's my role in the business and what do I look after? So it might be some of that steel energy coming through, but we've been really conscious about any time we feel like there has been a little bit of an evolution, we'll sit down and actually write position descriptions. So John, the founder, the owner, has a position description of what his role is, how he fits into the organization, what are his key activities, and how do we measure his success. And as funny as that sounds, that just gives the clarity not only to John but to myself and to the rest of the team, so that you don't have that overlap of shared responsibilities and miscommunication and weirdness around hierarchy or team structure.
Yeah, yep. No, there you go. And how, because you're young and female, how have you gone, and you've had an impressive career like to date. How have you gone sort of managing that and really owning that? Because that's I'm just super impressive. Super impressed, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny, people ask that a lot, they'll sort of say, oh, how old are you? Or, wow, like you didn't go to uni or anything like that. Like, I don't know. I personally don't think of it enough for it maybe to be a limitation.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've always gone into it as, if you show up, if you have the initiative, if you have the work ethic, if you prove yourself, if you're an example of, that leader that you want to follow or even be, I don't think that age, and I don't think that gender or, any sort of label should really dictate whether you can do the job or not. I've met people in their 60s who potentially haven't, maybe been as uncomfortable as what they could have been to achieve some stuff. And then on the flip side, like we've got, quite a few young team members who I'm like, holy crap, like got the craziest work ethic I've ever met, or
Wow.
like, how do you fit all of that in, or how are you that skilled or that smart? So
Mm.
yeah, we as an organization definitely don't pay too much attention to age or too much attention to, female, male, any of that. We sort of give you your merit based on how you show up day to day and what you put in. Yeah.
Beautiful. And even the younger team members, like I hear a lot of older business owners sort of mumble and grumble about it, and about certain characteristics that younger generations might have. But it's so cool to see that you've attracted some really good people who don't fall into that stereotype that gets mumbled about. So, no, well done. Yeah. And so with the so switching gears from sort of the CEO role and that, how you've developed that into the business side of things. So what you do for clients, what do you see as some of the better ways that clients interact with you as a digital marketing agency, web design, and that sort of thing? So what are some of the better examples of how clients work with you, and maybe some of the ways that it hasn't worked well in the past?
Yeah, so our clients are probably very similar to your clients in the fact that they're small to medium-sized business owners. They're great at doing their trade, or they're working in their industry, but they don't typically excel at doing digital marketing, and that's great. And that's sort of the gap that we want to fill in their business, is being that digital or trusted digital advisor, where that we can bolt into their business as such and look after all of that digital marketing stuff, so they don't have to spend their time, their team, or as they're investing all of their resources in trying to learn everything there is to learn about digital marketing, and then implementing it and knowing if they're doing it right or not. We sort of work with business owners by going in saying, look, we want you to spend more time doing what you love and running your business and doing what you do best. Let us look after all of that digital stuff for you. And that's really the best partnership between the clients we work with and us, when they sort of trust us to do what we do best, and we can lean on them to extract their brilliance or their technical knowledge, or their understanding of their business, and kind of marry that together. So that's sort of the ultimate partnership, the ultimate team, if you want to call it that. We have a very strong motto around doing a co-pilot approach. So it's us trusting the business owner and them trusting us, and kind of working together for a common goal. So that's the best way that we work together. Probably the least is other creatives, I would say.
The creative industry clients that you work with?
Yeah, the creative industry, like we really bond really well with, going into a client's business. As an example, they might be an engineering firm, like us going in there, putting the hard hat on, going and looking at, the fabrication sort of work area, and understanding about their business, and really trying to figure out what is their magic. And that's our slogan, sharing your magic. Like really go in and figure out what makes that business great. What are their USPs? What do they need? Who's their target audience? Kind of really get to know them, and then extract all of that and basically put that online. It's quite hard to do that with other creative industries that have got a very clear vision themselves and sort of know a lot of the answers and kind of do everything themselves. So that's kind of like not really our jam. It is very much the business owner that has worked a trade and has now decided they're going to open their own business, and they just need that support from a digital perspective to get their name out there, to get some leads and inquiries coming through, and to really showcase what makes them great.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And would you be able to give us a bit of a client success story that you can think of like what was there before and after, and also because I think what you do really well is the ongoing stuff as well. Like it's not just a website that you deliver and then that's it on a definitely not on a Friday, but like you don't just plonk it there and that's it. But walk us through like a really good client, what does that transformation look like, and then the relationship in that co-pilot role going forward?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of internal products innovation, especially over COVID, like that.
Yep.
Even for the digital landscape, transformed how we communicate, what our product needs to look like, how we need to deliver it. So we had a very big sort of like pivot. I'd say sort of the end of 2020 to focus more on that ongoing component, I guess, to our packaging or to our servicing. So we've gone away from just only building the website to, like what you said, is doing your SEO, doing your visual assets, so your photography, your video, ongoing, looking after the website itself, writing all your content, all of that fun stuff. To give you a practical example, we had an inquiry from a lawyer who went through COVID, had a bunch of challenges. So they were actually working for a big firm down in Melbourne.
Yep.
And he said, you know what, COVID's the best time, I guess, for me to break away and go and do my own thing and open my own business. So he came to us and he said, look, I know I'm going to need a website. I'm going to need leads and inquiry. Like I'm going to need photos, content, logo and branding, the full works. And we said, perfect, we got you. So he came to us, we delivered on all of that. And he launched beginning of 2021. And we literally just had a regroup with him before. And he's getting over 2,500 visitors to his website every single month in literally 12 months.
Jeez.
Yeah, crazy. So that's just one example of a client trusting us and us seeing his vision and like understanding what's driving him starting the business, running the business, who his ideal client is, and kind of working with him to craft that solution online. So building his website, building his brand, doing ongoing SEO, looking after his site, as he adds new facets of law, kind of building out landing pages and a marketing funnel to support that, right? So it's really that perfect co-pilot mix of him doing his business really well, feeding us enough information for us to do what we do really well.
Yep. And how do you best extract that from the business owner? Because I know that like I've had to bite bullets and like dive deep into marketing very regularly. So we've got a weekly marketing meeting plus time in my calendar to record stuff and webinars and all this sort of stuff. And that's taken a lot of my own effort and what's the word? Responsibility to do that. But how do you best extract from a business owner in a way that really works with them?
Yeah, very varied. So we're not, although we're a very process-driven agency, we're not sort of stuck in one means of communication or one way to do things. But really, it all starts at the beginning. So when we get a new lead and inquiry, we do what we call a web strategy workshop with that individual. And it's literally a 2.5, 3 hour workshop, either done on Zoom or in person with the client and our strategy team. And it's asking a bunch of questions. Like I said, just really trying to get into the head and understand who the business owner is, what the business is, who they work with, what they do. It's almost like a business coaching kind of session at the same time, because businesses haven't necessarily put that time and effort in to articulating, well, what are their 6 unique selling propositions, or what does their sales engagement look like, or all of those different bits and pieces that I guess we take for granted working in the creative space. We actually pull that all out from the client, in that 3-hour session. And then from there, we go away and spend, 4 or 5 hours actually crafting a solution that makes sense, that fits the budget, the timeline, all of the different parameters that we need to work with, to the client, pitch that to them, evolve it, tweak it, do whatever we need to. And then that really sort of sets the tone for the ongoing relationship, or what we're going to deliver with them. So definitely starts with a lot of upfront time, love, energy. That gives us a good foundation and a good footing. And then from there, you're literally going to talk to us every week, if not every other day, depending on what we're doing for you. And that's just basically to check in, how you're going, what's changed in the business. That blog that we wrote for you the other day, has anyone, come to you about it? Did you get any leads from it? Or sort of, we can tell them they did, and sort of discuss what happened with those leads. So it's very much, like I've said it before, co-pilot approach, where we're very invested in the long-term success of that client. And some clients, like right now, we've sort of got a client that's come in where we never talk to her on the phone. We never email her. She always has to come in and chat to us face to face. And that's fine. We love that. So we'll make her a cuppa. She'll come in. We'll have a chat. We'll do what we need to. Other clients, we've never met them in person. Thanks COVID, we can work with anyone. But we might have a chat with them on the phone for 20 minutes every other week. So we're kind of led by the client, as long as we've got enough information to do what we need to do. We're very happy to work with the client on what's the best way to communicate, what are the best days and times. Gabby, who I think you've worked with,
yes.
She'll get on a Zoom call at 7 p.m. at night, because obviously the business owners, was you're running their business, so don't have time to stop and get on a random Zoom call. So we'll do sort of calls after hours as well. So really led by the client, but that first initial meeting is where the magic happens, really getting to know them, building that rapport, really trying to understand what they're trying to achieve online, and building that relationship.
Yeah, and I kind of see that as like really super important, because if that messaging and strategy isn't right, then everything else is the result of that just goes. Doesn't make much. It won't be as powerful. Very good. All righty. Well, I guess the maybe some one of the last questions is more around how do, if there's a listener who's excited to sort of maybe suss out 5x5, or even learn a bit more about you and that role from a 2IC to CEO, how are they best to reach out to you or the business?
Yeah, so literally hop on our website. We've got a contact page, send us a note. We have some logic built in that, if you want to chat to Carla, they will come to me. If you want to chat to Pete, who's our head of strategy, as in, what a 5x5 solution might look like for your business, he'll reach out and have that chat with you. Just to talk to the 2IC question or component of that. Although I'm at this stage in my career or in the business, I love chatting to other 2ICs. We connected a couple of weeks ago, and sort of chatting to your team and sort of understanding how you guys run your rhythms and sort of what you're working on. I learned so much just from that 15-minute conversation. So to that point, just as much as you might have any questions for me, awesome. I would love to chat to any other 2ICs out there, or business owners that are kind of, trying to understand how to make that work in their business. And then obviously the other aspect of it, we build great looking, high performing digital solutions. So if that's something that you need help with in your business, like I said, hop to our website. I'm sure you'll have the link somewhere in the notes. Yep. And just send us a note through our inquiry form, and one of our strategists will reach out.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, no, thank you for being really open and sharing about your own journey. I know it's maybe a bit of a different spin to talking about just the business itself. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me on. I think that's so cool that, yeah, the 2IC role is becoming a lot more important in businesses, and it's a lot more, I guess, spoken about, which is pretty cool, because not only is that impact reflecting in John's life, but that impact reflecting in my life and all of our other leadership team as well. So we don't necessarily want to go out and start our own business, but we want to be part of a business and know that we can still grow and still develop and become leaders in our own rights within a business that we really love and really care about too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, love that enthusiasm, and you're right. I see it so many in clients or friends' businesses that are struggling with that growth side of things. I can kind of see it. It's like, Glaze is my EA, and she's like my secret weapon. Like, you just need a Glaze. Yeah. So no, thank you again. Really appreciate your knowledge, and we'll put those links and next steps in the show notes.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Carla. Cheers.